Hello, Patriots. Welcome to the Patriot Arts Podcast. I'm your host, Tim Gagno, and you are going to love this episode's guest. Bernie Donato started her military service as a U.S. Navy nurse in 1975, switching over to the Air Force Reserves, where she retired as a flight nurse on C-130s. Upon retiring from her civilian nursing career, she took an art class in the lifelong learning program at Duke University, where she unlocked her passion for art. Today, she is a prolific artist, working in a variety of mediums, from watercolors to acrylics, colored pencils, and more. So let's give a proud Patriot Arts welcome to today's guest, Bernie Donato. And so there we go. And now we have our guest today, Bernie Donato. Did I say your last name correctly?
You did say my last name correctly.
Very good. I'm proud of myself for that. Well, welcome to the Patriot Art Foundation podcast.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, it's a pleasure. Now, when Miss Mary White was laying out guests to be on the show, you were one of the first names that came up, and she said, you have got to have Bernie on the show. And so here you are today. Tell us a little bit about yourself. First of all, as we do with all of them, what branch of the military were you in?
Well, I started and ended in two different branches. So I started in active duty in the U.S. Navy Nurse Corps back in the dark ages. I raised my hand, was commissioned in 1975.
Okay, great.
And then I retired with 24 and a half years actually from the Air National Guard.
Oh, wow.
As a flight nurse on C-130s.
Neat. Wow. So you had quite the storied career. You were in for you were what we call a lifer.
I was a lifer, and if you ever asked me that before I signed up, I would have laughed at you.
A lot of lifers have that story. You know, they would never dream that they would be in as long as they were, and they loved every minute of it. And so that's fantastic. So you started off in one branch, you ended up in another branch. A lot of people have that story as well. So now you are an artist, and you are both a watercolorist. You are an acrylic painter. You also do photography. You're hitting on all cylinders, which is fantastic. So tell us, I'm really curious, because this is one of the things that I ask all of our guests. Did you find art before, during, or after your military, when you were in active duty? When did you really discover art?
Actually, excuse me, I was always, I'd say, a little artistic, meaning I always doodled and scribbled. And even as a little kid, I actually have my kindergarten report card that has a little paragraph from the teacher. It was the dark ages. TV was still black and white. The teacher wrote, Bernie Bean loves art. She loves using chalk and crayons. So nice. I think maybe that's when I started my art journey. Fast forward to that, I took art classes in high school, and one negative memory I always had is the art teacher. I heard him telling another student that I wasn't very good.
Oh.
And so fast forward to that, did I ever have any formal classes? No. But when I served in the first Gulf War, we started making, in the boredom time, because everyone thinks we're busy every second of the day. But in the downtime, I would sit and make little signs for our tent and signs for the condo and little cartoons of people. And even before that, in my civilian job in meetings, because meetings are always boring. I'd sit there and I'd scribble, and I'd draw on a piece of paper and something like that. And I truly didn't start painting like I do and colored pencil like I do until I retired and moved to North Carolina, which was 9.5 years ago. I took an OLLI class, that's Lifelong Learning Institute at Duke, and I took a watercolor class because I'd never done it before. And then I kept taking classes, and then the instructor says, you're really good at this. And then I took, because I'm a photorealistic painter, I took an abstract acrylic class just to see. And my mind still doesn't wrap around that very well, but actually I do pretty well in that. So I learned acrylic. Then I took colored pencil, and I love colored pencil. So now I mix. My most favorite thing is colored pencil and watercolor, or any kind of mixed media together. So the bottom line is, yes, it's always been there, but formally, I never took anything till I was an old girl and retired.
That's a beautiful story. So, what are some of the things that you love to paint the most?
So that's an interesting question, because what inspires me, and I get inspired by everything. I drive my friends crazy. I look at the sky and I say, "Wow, look at those clouds! Aren't they amazing?" And they look at me like I'm smoking crack. I mean, what's so big about the clouds, you know? And I look at people. The one painting we talked about before we got online, I looked at his face and said, I have to paint his face. I get inspired by people's backgrounds, their struggles, because I've had a lot of struggles in my military career, and I've had a lot of medical struggles, and so I just different things inspire me. When I was really sick last year, and I sat on my couch and I got a mat board out there and I just color penciled a rose. It was when I say simple, for me nothing's ever simple, but it was simple, but it was just something that still took all those emotions and put it down on a piece of paper. So I do like to do people's faces, not necessarily portrait wise. And now I'm developing into really taking all my inner emotions and pulling those out onto paper.
Wow, look at these clouds. There's nothing like painting clouds, and I'm talking to you today from Santa Fe, New Mexico, where I can turn in a complete circle and see clouds all around me. So this is an opportunity I don't want to miss, and neither should you. So a couple things to remember. The clouds have soft edges, so here you want to use a lot of water. Here I'm going to paint the blue part of the sky that we can see here, right in here, and I'm leaving some ragged edges there. But mostly I want nice soft edges. So here I'm using more water. I'm covering the area that I want with water to keep those nice soft edges. And then I'm mixing, you see the darker color of the underside of the clouds. There I'm mixing a little brown into that blue. And I'm using a big brush so I can go quickly. And here is that underside of that cloud there. So they're really quick, a little bit like that, and you're done. Don't overdo it. So get out there and paint that landscape, especially those marvelous clouds. And that's your quick tip.
So now that you're, say, I don't like to throw the word professional artist around, because to me it's like we're always playing and having the best job in the world, so it's hard to call it a job. But as a professional artist, as you're going, you had to make a transition. You were retired from the military, you were retired from serving as a nurse, and then you want to make that's a big jump, going from military nursing to artist. That's a big whoa, going that way. So tell us a little bit about that journey and how you did you stumble across it? Was it a conscious choice? This is what I want to do. How did you go from I'm retired, I'm not doing this anymore, to doing this? Because most people would have just tried to find another job in that military career field. You took a left turn and ran down the road less traveled here.
So I actually retired from the military in 1999, and I retired from the Air National Guard. I wasn't active duty, so I still had a regular job. I still had a regular nursing job, and I lived in California at the time, because when I joined the Navy in '75, my first duty station was California, and I stayed there till I retired from everything. and I continued working as a nurse till 2013. And one day I just said, I'm going to move to North Carolina. Do you know anybody there? No. Have you ever lived there? No. I'm just going to move there. I grew up in New York State. So I picked up everything. I moved to New York State and got a nursing license here, and then decided, why did I do that? Because I don't want to work anymore. And and I just said, I have to do something with my life. There's so many things to do. So is it a transition from being a nurse to being in the military? The transition really falls in the part of the kind of artwork I do. So I'm doing one now, which I won't tell you what it is, but that's really brings every part of my sensory, my memories, and my emotions out of my nursing career in and out of the military, because I was an ER nurse in South Central Los Angeles.
Oh, wow.
So yeah. And yeah. And when I told somebody what I was going to do, they said, well, it sounds a little dark, but it sounds good. It sounds good. So transition wise, did I decide to be an artist? I never even called myself an artist till about 3 or 4 years in of actually taking classes and doing. And then when there's a site called the Veterans Art Program. It's a site on Facebook where I signed up on. There's lots of veteran artists and there's opportunities posted. An opportunity was posted from Australia. In line with the Invictus Games, Australia has a veteran artist museum up in Melbourne. So they asked for any countries that were participating in the Invictus Games in 2018. They wanted artists to submit a painting digitally that goes with the theme to make your mark. So I submitted the one of the guy in the wheelchair 2 days before the closing date and just said, that's never going to work, because I didn't even think I was an artist, and I got accepted. And
well, let's take a look at that piece of art right now. Here it is right here. And so talk to us a little bit more about it. What was the process? It is a great painting. Absolutely fabulous.
Thank you. So the painting is actually from a photograph. I actually took the photograph of this gentleman. He's an Army veteran, wheelchair bound because of a medical condition. And he's spoken in the Fayetteville Observer and stuff, and talked about his journey of going through such severe depression and PTSD and all kinds of other things. Yet here he is in this bicycle doing this 8K that he does every year. And at one point in the race, because we followed him around, we did the 8K by running around taking pictures of him. And at one point, he couldn't get his brakes to work and he was flying down the hill. But the look on his face, that it sounded like he looks so mellow and he looks so relaxed and he looks like he's where he needs to be, just inspired me. It wasn't the two guys behind him, who are also friends of mine. It was his face that I just said, I have to put that on canvas. And that's the one that got accepted in Australia. And I actually flew out there for the reception.
Oh, wow. That must have been so much fun, flying out to Australia to go to an art show that you're in. That would always be a blast. And it's beautiful that it was a show for veterans to submit their artwork and different things. And it's amazing. It's amazing.
Veterans with adaptive abilities, because that's what the Invictus Games. And as a side note, there's another painting that you showed me earlier, the girl with the fire behind me. Okay. I took her photo at the Invictus Games because I got tickets to the Invictus Games, and and she inspired me. If you know her whole background story, there's no reason.
That painting. Here's that.
There's
painting
no reason. Right, thank you. There's no reason she should even be alive with what happened to her.
Wow.
She was active duty Air Force and had a motorcycle accident and was in Walter Reed for, can't remember, it was 3 months, 4 months. I think she was unconscious for 3 or 4 months. Oh, and wow. She went from this little wasted away girl to a power lifter.
A power lifter. Wow.
I mean, she's amazing. Just to watch her was amazing. And she's very humble. And I just thought, I mean, obviously she didn't have a fire behind me. I said, I don't know, I just want to paint a fire behind her.
Right. Well, she's got a fire inside of her. That's for sure. So
that's for sure.
Here's a painting that you've done, and it's like a plein air study, and it's absolutely beautiful. Tell us about this one.
So these were done early in my painting career. This is done in watercolor, and I was just a background. There's always a background to a lot of my paintings, but the background is this is painted for a very, very, very close friend who's a Vietnam vet, and I wanted to give it to him for Christmas. What was I going to say? So these, a lot of these were just trying to hone my skills as a watercolor artist. I hadn't even started acrylic or color pencil or anything else then. So that's the background of a lot of my flag paintings. And I did a lot of them for people who do some amazing things in their community. Like this gentleman is Vietnam vet. He does oral histories on veterans. He's done over 550 oral histories on local people around here. Many of them were World War II veterans. Oh, wow. And I just thought as a gift to him, and he hangs it in his house very proudly and tells everyone who did the painting. So a lot of the flag paintings you see, because there are more there, were gifted to people who do amazing things for their communities.
Charcoal or graphite? What should you draw with? Charcoal naturally wants to draw darker, creating a velvety matte black. The downside is that it's more difficult to achieve lighter values. Graphite is the opposite, lending itself to drawing lighter. Because of its crystalline nature, graphite has a metallic sheen to it, which makes it difficult to achieve a true black. Graphite pencils come in a wide variety of levels, and as this chart shows, range from very light to very dark. Charcoal is generally sold in a 3-pack of soft, medium, and hard pencils, which are actually charcoal mixed with clay and compressed to make very dark marks. To achieve softer values, vine or willow charcoal is simply burnt wood. These are very fragile and make light marks that are easily wiped off. So whether it's graphite, whether it's charcoal, it doesn't matter. Drawing is just so much fun. Speaking of which, if you've got some drawings that you'd like to share with us at the Patriot Art Foundation, be sure to send us some pictures of your artwork by sending it to our website or on our social media.
You know, there are a ton of opportunities for veterans to get involved in the arts and to do that. How does art, you know, just being able to express yourself that way, how does that, you know, like when you're having a bad day, when you're having a good day, when you're having an in-between day, the good, the bad, and the ugly days, how does art inform your life? How does it affect how you go through your day and how it's, you know, especially when we talk about, you know, veterans that might suffer from PTSD or just the stress of making the transition or the stress of the day. You know, let's face it, a lot of people have really stressful jobs, both active duty and veterans. How does art help you as a person on a deep level, you know, get through, like I said, the good, the bad, and the ugly?
So in my background as a nurse, and no, we don't give back rubs and give bedpans. That's the old days. Especially half of my career in emergency medicine in South Central Los Angeles, and I served in the first Gulf War that people forget about. So my background of just seeing so much sickness, trauma, illness, stabbing, shootings, and all kinds of things really affected my psyche. But what we do is when I said we as nurses, we tend to take that traumatic experience and put it in a box and put that box on the shelf. And then as you get older and older and you retire, all of a sudden you've got this whole shelf full of traumatic experiences, and all the lids of the boxes start opening and falling out. And that's where art for me has really, really helped me. I'm taking all that visual and sensory and memories and emotions and channeling it from my heart. This is my logo, heart to hands, from my heart, and just channeling it in through that blank canvas or that blank piece of paper, and taking something that's blank and creating on it. And so I have a hashtag I always use on my social media page. It's called Tune Out, Unwind, and Create. When I'm doing a piece of art, there's nothing else in my head. Nothing else in my head. I have a service dog. She's amazing. She's actually sitting at my feet, and she has the calming effect of sitting at my feet. And the art I just take all those emotions and channel them through to the art. And if it starts out as a bad day, then it's a good day.
That's right. If you remember what Bob Ross used to say, any day is a good day to paint.
That's right. That's right.
The man had good advice, and he was a veteran too. He was in the Air Force. He was a master sergeant in the Air Force.
I didn't realize that.
Yeah. Old Bob Ross he was Master Sergeant Ross, and he actually had a nickname. I guess in the military, he had a nickname that was called Hard Ass Ross, because apparently he was quite the very kind of guy.
That's
and
funny.
When he went in to be an artist, he said, I don't want to be grouchy and angry and all this. I want to be, and so then you got that peaceful hippie dude that he was known for, but he was in the Air Force and quite a rough tumble guy, I guess.
That's fun. Well, take a little tree and put it over in the corner.
That's right. You got real laid back, but art does that. It's like all the stress of your life can go straight out your arm and into your paintbrush, and you just leave it on the canvas.
It does. I think the only thing for me is sometimes I'll be working on a piece, and then all of a sudden I get this idea in my head. Oh, I have this really cool piece I want to do. And then so now it's the choice of either am I going to hurry up and finish? There's nothing hurry up about this girl when it comes to art. But sometimes I put down pieces and started the other one and finish the other one, then go back to the other one. And I have to really kind of put a lid on that and just try to say, finish what you have. At one point I had 5 unfinished projects. So I just stopped. I went to those unfinished projects. So 3 of them are done.
There you go. Yeah, I know a lot of artists work on more than one thing at the same time, and like I'm an oil painter. So something over there is drying. I'm working over here on something else. And I got something in the middle that I'm working on and I'm doing this, all at the same time. And, with most of the time when I paint, I start to finish, but sometimes you just can't, it doesn't always work that way. So
right.
That's kind of how that ball rose. But, I really do. I feel like art is such a great way to just get the stress out. It's just you and a canvas, and the world melts away. And I don't know how it is for you, but there are times when I will realize, I'm really hungry. I wonder why. And it's 4 hours later.
Yes.
And where did the time go? It was like I was in a time warp, and it's hours later. And the only reason I realized that I needed to take a break was because my stomach was reminding me, hey, you haven't eaten in several hours. It's time to maybe fill me and then come back and paint some more. And that's what art can do. Our art can really be a blessing, especially for our veterans that have struggles. And even if you don't have struggles, there is nothing like drawing, painting, photography. There's nothing like making art. It's one of those things. So if you could have any advice for someone that is curious about trying art, someone that may have never thought twice about art, but either hearing this podcast or maybe they've seen some other things and they want to give it a try, what would your advice be for someone about to try art?
Well, I would probably ask them, what part of art interests you? And maybe get a little bit more information out of it, because I think sometimes that helps. Because I think if you think about it, well, I want to try art, but I don't really want to know what I want to try. Then how do you lead? I mean, how do you help someone go to? I said do it, and then give them the resources. Kind of what do you feel like doing? Would you like to, do a painting? Do you want to try to draw? And try to give them the resources doing it, and then just tell them how much better you're going to feel, even if you don't feel bad, that it's just a part of you. When you create something, it just brings you so much happiness. And I equate that with the local VA here a bunch of years ago asked me if I want to come help the recreational therapy classes, because the doctors refer them. Now, I'm not a teacher by any means. I told them I'm not a teacher, but I can help you lead classes. So I bring in they bring 8x10 canvas, bring in acrylic, and maybe bring a simple painting, and we just start from the beginning. Some people had never picked up a paintbrush, and I have pictures of the groups, and the looks on their faces are so happy. We did collage. We did collage and paint one day, and what I was amazed is the stories that some of these veterans told through their work, through their collage and through their painting. Well, this was this, and this is this, and this had that, and I was like amazing. And then one session we did acrylic pouring. And I always say that's crack for artists. You know, how fun is that? You get a bunch of paint and pour it on a canvas and get to wiggle it around. But the satisfaction for everybody, and most of them have never had any art at all. So my advice is always, if you want to try art, do it. And just for us to help maybe give them a pathway or show them a pathway and have them choose what might work for them.
Excellent. That is such great advice. Well, Bernie, I want to thank you so much for coming on to this podcast. It was just fabulous. You had some great stories. You had some great advice. I think that I know that our viewers are going to really enjoy this conversation that we had. Where can we find more information about you and your art?
My website, which I'm going to redo because I don't really like this setting, but I'm going to redo it. It's BernieDonatoArt.com.
Very nice and simple, straight to the point.
If you just Google Bernie, BERNIE, Donato, DONATO, art, if you Google that, then the site will come right up.
Excellent. And we'll put that link in the description below, and it's probably on screen right now. Again, if I've done my job as the editing video editor right, we will have that on the screen as well. So, but thank you again, Bernie, for coming on. I really, really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you. I appreciate you having me here.
Welcome, veterans, to Watercolor Boot Camp, where we are going to show you how you can tell your own story through art. I'm Mary White. I spent 7 years traveling the country, painting veterans from all walks of life and from every state for the project We the People, Portraits of Veterans in America. And that's where I learned how painting can be a way for you too, as a veteran, to tell your own story. We're going to show you how you can select your painting materials, draw it on the paper, mix the color, paint washes, and create paintings that you'll be proud enough to show your family.
I was a combat medic.
Army.
I hadn't painted in 55 years.
Since the 4th grade. I tried watercoloring once, it didn't work out very well. Not as hard as I thought it was.
And so what will your paintings look like? Well, they won't look like mine, and they won't look like anybody else's, because there's no one way to paint. There's not a right way or a wrong way. Your paintings will look just like your own, because maybe you like to paint every little detail, or maybe you like to paint big, loose washes and paintings that are almost abstract. You might like bright, vibrant color, or you may prefer neutral colors.
I'm learning and watching Mary, how she just throws paint on the canvas and all of a sudden it's a pair of boots. Amazing.
It sounds weird, but you lose track of time. And that's when you know you're doing something that's good for you. You'll be painting and all of a sudden you look around and it's like, man, it's been 2 hours. Oh, this is amazing. This is what I've been doing with my life, painting.
We're going to come alongside you so that you can work at your own pace in your own home. And we're going to show you how to paint big, loose paintings, still life, landscapes, flowers, animals, portraits, and even illustrated journals that you'll be proud to have as a keepsake.
It saved me. I hit a really deep spot, and it was the art therapy that it pulled me out. I get stressed, that's the first thing I go to. The problem still exists, but it doesn't affect me anymore.
We are so proud at the Patriot Art Foundation to partner with Terracotta to bring you these courses. And so now, let's get started.